When the sheriff's boat pulled up to my dock that morning, I assumed they were finally there to deal with the nonsense of someone leaving strange bottles on my property. But the deputy stepped out looking sheepish and said, "Mr. Bremer, we've had a report that your yacht is tied up illegally on HOA land." I had to blink at him. "You mean my dock on my land with my boat?" He sighed and admitted that a certain neighbor across the inlet, known to everyone as Karen, was claiming jurisdiction over the water. I couldn't help but laugh. Tell her I'll be asserting my own jurisdiction in court. At 42, I'd finally reached the point I'd dreamed of for years. After 2 decades working as a software architect, enduring endless meetings and corporate red tape, I saved enough to buy a piece of paradise. 3 acres along Cattail Sound near Pelican Cove, a quiet bungalow, and my prize yacht, the Digital Detox, anchored right behind my house. The whole point was freedom from interference. What I hadn't anticipated was Tricia Lormont, the self-appointed empress of Bayside Dunes, the gated waterfront neighborhood across from me. With her sharp bob haircut and a binder of HOA bylaws she treated like scripture, she decided her authority stretched beyond her community and onto my property. My land wasn't under any HOA, but that didn't stop her from calling my home the eyesore across the water in her newsletters. Her campaign began almost laughably. She sent her teenage kids paddling over to leave glass bottles stuffed with HOA suggestions on my dock. One contained a 12-page color guide claiming the navy blue of my yacht ruined her carefully curated Coastal Serenity palette. I saved each bottle as evidence and ignored the messages. When that didn't work, she escalated to official-looking cease and desist letters, complete with Bayside Dunes letterhead, warning that my yacht disrupted visual harmony and violated the sanctity of their waters. She even paid for certified mail to send them. My favorite was a citation I got after putting up solar lights for safety, accusing me of unauthorized illumination in violation of something she called the Bayside Marine Ambience Code. Things turned bizarre when I found a laminated dock seizure notice chained to one of my pylons, declaring my dock a navigational hazard under HOA emergency authority. She'd even embossed it with a seal, as if that made it legally binding. I cut it off with bolt cutters, photographed everything, and made sure to document the damage. But then she crossed a line. Convinced of her imaginary maritime powers, she actually hired a towing company to remove my yacht. One Thursday morning, I heard the rumble of a diesel engine and saw a commercial towboat approaching, crew ready with chains. What they didn't expect was my security system, a drone with live streaming. It launched automatically, capturing everything on video and sending it directly to my attorney, Maya Bronson. Maya was a powerhouse in property rights law and loved this kind of overreach. Before the towboat could drop anchor, she had already filed for an injunction and was on the phone with the sheriff. By the time deputies arrived, the towing crew was retreating fast. 3 weeks later, the whole mess landed in court. Judge Fenwick, a seasoned sailor who'd been navigating these waters since long before Bayside Dunes was built, presided. Karen appeared dressed like a parody of a sea captain, complete with a gold-button blazer and anchor-shaped brooch. She came prepared like it was a corporate merger, lugging in a binder so thick it could serve as a ballast, and a PowerPoint presentation projected onto the courtroom wall. When it was her turn to speak, she launched into her argument with the confidence of someone used to having the last word at every neighborhood meeting. She cited supposed principles like shoreline unity and waterway harmony, as though they were actual statutes, and at one point, she even declared that she was defending maritime aesthetic sovereignty. Judge Fenwick allowed her to ramble for about 10 minutes before lifting his hand, his expression calm but firm. "Ma'am," he said in the slow, deliberate tone of a man correcting a child, "his dock sits on its own tax lot. Your organization has no power over it. None." Her face flushed as she tried to salvage her argument, rambling about the greater good and community vision that should transcend property boundaries. That was when the judge's patience snapped. He brought his gavel down with a sharp crack. "This is the United States, not Atlantis. Your HOA's rules end at your property line. Case dismissed." But that wasn't the end. My counterclaim for harassment, attempted theft, and emotional distress was immediately accepted and expedited. Given the seriousness of her behavior, that's when the real damage began. My attorney, Maya, presented the stack of evidence we collected. The bottles with ridiculous demands, the fraudulent notices, the attempt to seize my dock, and, most damning, the financial records showing she had diverted more than $15,000 of HOA money to fund her personal crusade. A few Bayside Dunes board members were present, and as Maya broke down the numbers, their faces turned pale. Karen had labeled these expenses as waterfront beautification projects in the official budget. Then Maya played the drone footage of the towing attempt, complete with audio of the crew preparing to drag my boat with equipment that could have caused over $100,000 in damage. With every new piece of evidence, Judge Fenwick's expression hardened. When Maya finished, he looked at Karen and asked if she had any legitimate legal authority for her actions. Her desperate answer about implied shared waterways was met with an exhausted sigh. The ruling was swift. She was ordered to pay $35,000 in damages, covering my legal fees, repair costs, and harassment compensation. On top of that, she was sentenced to 100 hours of community service focused on property law and required to attend a 2-day seminar titled Property Lines. They're not suggestions. The court also issued a restraining order barring her from coming within 500 feet of my land or dock. Then the judge turned to the HOA itself. He ordered them to post signs along their waterfront clarifying that properties across the inlet were outside their jurisdiction and to send me a formal written apology from the board. He also required that any future HOA president must complete a course on the limits of their authority before assuming the role. The entire board was warned that any further harassment would result in criminal charges. The fallout for Karen was immediate and devastating. That very evening, the Bayside Dunes board convened an emergency session and unanimously voted to strip her of her position. She was banned from ever holding office again and faced a civil suit from the HOA itself to recover the funds she had misused. Word of the debacle spread quickly around Pelican Cove, and soon the whole town knew about the yacht incident. Her real estate business, once buoyed by her HOA connections, crumbled as clients abandoned her. Within weeks, she had lost most of her listings. 2 weeks after the ruling, her husband filed for divorce, citing her reckless spending and obsession with control. Even her mother, who had sat through trial, was overheard saying she'd warned her daughter for years to rein in her behavior. The district attorney didn't let it slide either. After reviewing the evidence, Karen was charged with attempted grand theft, fraud, and misuse of funds. She was found guilty on all counts. The final sentence: 2 years probation, 300 additional hours of community service, and $50,000 in fines. When the judgment was read, the woman who once strutted into every meeting with unshakable authority completely fell apart. Her carefully maintained composure shattered as she wept openly, whispering that she had only been trying to protect standards while the bailiff led her away.